Hi, it's Savannah O'Gwynn from Savannah Land 2. Today I'm doing something a bit different. I've received several emails asking how I stamped on spray painted paper, so I wanted to share some tips for this technique. You see, I have a serious love for neon things right now, and I know I'm a bit behind the trend. However, I did try to get some inks and papers when this trend began, but I couldn't find any in our local craft stores. So I began to think about how I could make something neon, and that's where I got the idea to use spray paint on my paper crafts. Now, I've used this technique several times in the past 6 months on my projects, and here are a couple of examples. I've used spray painted paper as an accent for each. This first card was featured on the Paper Smooches Sparks November Trend Watch Challenge. This next card was featured just this week on the Paper Smooches Sparks Designer Drafts Challenge. And for today's video, I've created this card using the Paper Smooches Great Chemistry and Cutisaurus stamp sets. So how do you create this spray painted paper and stamp on it? Well, it's really simple. You just need a couple of supplies. First, you want to get some cardstock. And I use just a generic thin cardstock, but you can use a thicker or better quality paper if you'd like as well. You're also going to want to have some spray paint, some stamping ink, and I'm just using Mementos dye ink. And the next supplies will be split for 2 different ways to stamp on spray painted paper. So you might need workable fixative, embossing powder and an embossing buddy, and a glazed pen. And finally, you're going to want to have literally any Paper Smooches stamp. Today I'll be using the Paper Smooches Quick Quibs set. Now my first tip is pretty basic, and it's a no-brainer. Don't spray paint in a house. You want to make sure that you spray paint in an area where you have good ventilation. Now once you've picked a spot, you're just going to spray paint your paper. Now another no-brainer is that you're going to want to read your instructions for spray painting. So for this can, all it says is to shake it and then hold your can out about 5 to 8 inches from your project and then spray with a sweeping motion. Now I also spray with small spurts of paint instead of just holding down the nozzle. When you hold down that nozzle, it causes runs and globs of paint on your cardstock. So it's better to have 2 coats of a thin layer when you're sweeping like this than globs. Now once the paint has dried, you'll have something like this. And now you're ready to stamp. So here are a couple of ways to do this. I've done a bit of trial and error, and I've found out what works best. Here are 2 small pieces, and over here we're going to start with using a glaze pen. You can see that I stamped several images from this Quick Quib set, and I've already used a glaze pen on part of it to show you the difference. Now let me get this a little closer, see if you can see that this sediment on the left has not been traced over, and it is actually blurry and not as bold. And that's what I really like in my images. I like a bold look. So what I did was I spray painted my paper, sprayed it with workable fixative, and then stamped my image and let it dry. Then I traced each image with a black glaze pen. And all you're going to do is just make sure it works and then trace over your image. Now this takes a little bit of time, and I suggest a steady hand when you do this. But it gives you that bold look, and it also raises your image just like it's been embossed. You can see there the difference. And then you just want to let it dry. Now there's another way to do this that is quicker, and it also gives a bold line, and that's embossing your image. So what you do is you spray paint your paper, let it dry. I also sprayed a little bit of workable fixative on there, and then I'm going to rub some embossing buddy over it. And for today I'm going to be stamping the BFF image. So you ink up your stamp, stamp it right on your image, or on your paper, apply your embossing powder, and then heat set it. Now this is really awesome because, let me get the excess off. With spray painted paper, you don't need special ink for embossing. All I'm using is dye ink, and it really works well with this spray painted paper. So then all you're going to do is heat set it. And there you have it. Easily done. Now this is a quick way to get a great look on spray painted paper. I really hope that you will try spray painting on one of your creations. And I suggest that you go to a hardware store or craft store and check out all the colors you can use for spray paint. I know I'm going to be getting some more neon colors soon. Please leave a comment below with the link to your creation or project. I'd love to check it out. Thanks so much for watching.